Good morning. Welcome to this Sunday morning meditation time with Dhamma Dharini. Those of you who are in the Northern California know that we recently had wonderful, exciting rains, the beginning of the winter rainy season in California. And now we're in a little bit of a cold snap. The air is fresh. But it has dried out. And we are continuing to offer, not this morning program, but the afternoon sutta study will be both in person and online. So anybody who lives around here can come over for the sutta study. We have some effective outdoor type space heaters, so one can be comfortable and enjoy reading the sutta together. And I decided, in response to your requests, to have a bit of Pali chanting at the end of the sutta study outside. So that's coming up this afternoon. For now, I will tell you that we've completed having the death awareness theme during the month of November. And now we've coming into the month of December, which has one very special theme for December, and that is this is the time that is recorded in the ancient history of Sri Lanka when the Arahant Bhikkhuni Sanghamita came from India to Sri Lanka and founded the Bhikkhuni Sangha by giving the ordination to Anula, who was a queen of Sri Lanka, together with 500 ladies. These were like, I guess, royal ladies or ladies of the associated with the palace, or whatever the equivalent was in those ancient times. Maybe it wasn't what we think of as a modern palace, but this is this week we celebrate how Sanghamita accepted the invitation to go to Sri Lanka and departed from the palace of her father, King Asoka. And then the following week we celebrate how she arrived at Sri Lanka. And then the week after that, we celebrate taking the Bodhi tree from where they landed to Anuradhapura, where that tree is now planted. This was a sapling from the original Bodhi tree that the Buddha sat under. So it's a very ancient tree. So this is one of the themes for this month. I'm, however, not able to spend an entire month talking about history, and so we'll be starting a different theme in January with our winter retreat time. Possibly the Brahmaviharas will be the theme that we'll be discussing and presenting and practicing throughout the period of the winter retreat. That's like a couple months of focused practice of loving kindness and the other divine abodes. but what to do during this interval? So here's my thought. The ultimate contemplation in the contemplation of death is realizing the deathless, realizing that there is a way to the cessation of going around on this round of birth and death, this round of samsara. And in order to understand that, one has to be able to notice cessation. We already know that everything is impermanent, but a lot of people experience impermanence as one thing after another. So the monkey is swinging from one branch to another in the jungle, and while he grasps onto a new branch and lets go of the old branch, and then he swings on and grabs onto another branch and lets go of the other branch. So he's experiencing continuous change, but he's continuously grasping onto the next new thing. So in that way, like the arising is much more noticeable, and it's not very easy to notice the thing that was just let go of, the thing that's already gone off into the past. But in contemplation and mindfulness, if we can train the mind to be able to notice the things that are over, the things that are finished. This is setting up like a skill and ability in the mind, actually developing a mental or a psychological skill to be able to be aware of cessation, to be aware of the emptiness that's left after something has ceased. And in that emptiness there is peace. In that emptiness there is freedom. And this is retraining the mind so that eventually, if we progress on this path to the noble realizations, then we can realize stage by stage the permanent disappearance of some of the fetters that keep us tied down into going around and around on this merry-go-round or this roller coaster. Therefore, I propose during this meditation, I'm going to give a kind of like a standard guided meditation. This is not a meditation procedure, but within the meditation procedure, I'm going to invite you to do one kind of practice, and that is about causation. We're supposed to develop something that in the Pali language is yoniso manasikara, and that's often translated as wise attention, but it literally means paying attention to the origin. So if a new feeling or a new perception or a new thought arises during the meditation, if we're paying very close attention, it could be possible to look back and notice what was the trigger or what was the proximate cause for that thing that rose, that came up. It might be that the proximate cause is something that was actually something that we intended that we direct the mind on purpose. So if you direct the mind to be aware of the breath, then the sensations connected with the breath suddenly become noticeable. Why did they become noticeable? Because on purpose we directed our awareness in that direction. Or if we intentionally, on purpose, direct the mind to awareness of sensations, touch sensations all over the body, anywhere in the body, then all of a sudden we can feel so many different sensations and tingling, and all over the body we can feel them. Why? Because we chose to direct our mind. So that's like very much on purpose. Another great example is when bringing up the thought of metta. Sometimes like the physical body and the feeling and the quality of the mind all shifts when we bring out that thought of loving kindness for all beings, or for any kind of being or anybody in particular. Any practice like that is transformative, and so you can notice that. There's another kind of causation which is also intentional. It might be a little bit less skillful, or a little bit more random. So if we're sitting in meditation, and I remember, there's a certain email that I need to answer. And then I could choose to, while I'm sitting on the meditation cushion, I could choose to mentally compose that email. So there's this huge transformation of the mind, and it happened on purpose. And why did it happen? Because I want something other than meditation. I want to write an email. And so then that wanting, that's an intention. So if you find that the mind has wandered, that you lost the meditation, and the mind started wandering into thoughts or something else not relevant to the meditation, it might be you want something. And to have the look back. So a thought can cause a feeling, a thought can cause a perception. A feeling can cause a thought. Sometimes there's a feeling, and because of that feeling, some thought comes along, and if you look back to that yonisa manasikara, where did that thought come from? And then you could realize, I have a unsettled sensation in the stomach, and that actually was the reason why that thought came along. So that's looking back to notice what was the cause. I believe that this contemplation and developing this actual awareness with the phenomenon within the meditation can be really good mental training. If the meditation is really skillful and wonderful, and you're doing exactly what you hope to do in meditation, and then you can also see what are the conditions that make that good meditation come along and that sustain it. Or if you're having a bad meditation, that the mind is very unsettled or difficult to stay with the meditation, you can also look, and you can still look and see what were the factors that was causing that those difficulties, those hindrances to be present. So it doesn't matter if the meditation is good or bad. You can always use this quality yoniso manasikara, to look for the cause. Where is this coming from? With that introduction, let's sit down and have some meditation. Welcoming any questions about this meditation or your report on what you were able to notice. I see a message here from Karen saying watching one's thoughts is the key. Yes, they can be the key. If we can learn this looking back method and come to see the arising causation, then the next and possibly more subtle or difficult to do is to be able to notice the cessation. That the attention was there on an object and then it ceased. There's sort of a good and bad side about cessation. One is just because of the wandering mind, the one thing after another. That's not so very interesting. But then the other part is if the same kind of thought keeps coming back again and again, it could be that there's a grasping mind. Because there's something you're hanging on to and it's causing the mind to become obsessed and to proliferate about something, and then the thoughts keep coming like that because of grasping. But so then if the meditation, it's a good meditation, then it could happen that the mind is not grasping at anything. And then the whole, the merry-go-round starts to go slower, and one can see the space in between the different thoughts. Or one can see the end of one thought just stopping. Okay, is that good?
Yes, thank you, Ayya. And thank you for this very interesting meditation. And I'd never heard of Yoniso Manasikara in this translation, which makes sense also from whatever little Pali I know. I think Yoni is maybe the womb, or I'm not sure, but something to do with birth. So, yeah, thank you so much for this.
Yes.
And Ayya, the meditation was very interesting for me because it helped me see where some of these thoughts are starting. And in some cases, it was quite interesting. Maybe, sometimes during the instruction, I hear something and it triggers some memory, or which was quite curious for me. Oh, such a thing even happens that,
Yeah.
And also how one thought then leads to another and another. So it's quite interesting. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mm.
You might have heard a story I tell about a very strong experience that I had with this. It's something that happened many years ago, but it was so outstandingly clear. I was on a 3-month meditation retreat at the Insight Meditation Society. So that's a very well-supported situation where you really have a chance to let the mindfulness be more deep. And it so happened that before I started that retreat, a doctor had prescribed a certain medicine. And later on, I found out it was a side effect of the meditation, of the medicine, side effect of this new medication, that I was getting heart palpitations. And they were happening approximately on the hour. I would just be sitting in meditation, and what I noticed was I would be sitting in meditation, and first a thought would come. And the thought, the one that I remember so clearly, is thinking, I'm never going to be able to succeed in meditation. I might as well give up. This very depressed thought. And then 1 second later, I noticed. And so what happened was, before I got the perception of the heart beating, there started a feeling, and then the mind notices something weird is happening, and the mind starts to make a story. So the mind concocted and fabricated this whole story about how I'll never be able to meditate. This whole thing, it sprang up like this big story, and it was explaining, okay, why is the heart beating?
Mm.
And then after I realized that it was the heart palpitations, then I asked that you have teachers, you go for interviews, and I mentioned that, and the teacher said, well, strange things can happen in meditation. But then I called my doctor, and I prescribed a different medication. so that went away. But it was so interesting that something happened in the body. There was something definitely just happening in the body for no reason at all. And then came a story, and the story and the feeling, it's almost like they came in together. I could, the story and the feeling were feeding each other. I could see in slow motion how this was happening. And then after that, I came to notice the bodily manifestation. So yeah, that's just an example. And yeah, so I'll call on Maggie.
I'm glad you shared that story about physical reactions, because I have severe hearing loss. And when I have hearing aids in, like to hear your voice leading, I'm also getting all kinds of sound coming in and magnified. And when I take my hearing aids out, which I usually do when I meditate, because I'm blessed with more silence in some ways, but not in others, because I have tinnitus. It's like a highway in my brain.
Yeah.
So this occupies a lot of my sensation and triggers thoughts sometimes. It blocks out a lot of other things. I'm not quite sure how to deal with it. I mean, I try to just sit with it, but at times it's anxiety provoking, at times it's just, I'm so tired of hearing all this. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your heart palpitation story, because what to do with that? I mean, how to get more to what I feel like is the focus of meditation with all of this going on.
Yeah. The wonderful English teacher Ajahn Semedo has frequently speaks about what he calls the sound of silence, and I sometimes wondered if he has the tinnitus, and that's what he's referring to. I also have tinnitus, and I've tried using that as an objective meditation. I've not found it to be as fruitful as some other aspects, because, at least in my case, the tinnitus is just like constant. It's sort of like watching a light bulb, or watching a constant, just a constant sound that doesn't have any variation. Whereas when you're watching the breath, the breath has got that rising and falling. It's got a sort of like a rhythm to it. And there's something about watching something that's got that rhythm that's, comes, goes, come, go, and that helps with attention, and it helps with meditation. Even, I think that one reason why the ancient people found it so much easier to meditate was because their mode of transportation was walking. And so walking also has that kind of that rhythmic quality. It's just step, 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 step. And so then walking meditation, I think, can be really, really powerful to help the mind get into a groove, even not just walking for 30 minutes between meditations, but if you have a chance, you have a day off, and you can, go to a park and walk for 6 hours. Not like wearing out the body with extreme exercise, but just in a very relaxed, calming way, just walking at a very, like a moderate pace, that can definitely cause the mind to settle. So I would encourage using something like breath as an anchor. Even the other experiences can be in the background, but you're like aiming the meditation at watching the breath. It's like anything that's unpleasant. Sometimes the teachers will advise to focus on the thing that's unpleasant or painful, and then sometimes just by focusing on it, then eventually it breaks up and becomes just like a vibration, and you no longer experience it as being something unpleasant. It's just more like a neutral vibration. So that's one approach, is to take the unpleasant hearing sensations and just focus on them, and just watch really carefully. You're a scientist, so what's really happening here? Why? And then you can sort of like, you can find, learning to watch what's unpleasant, and then you find something pleasant within the thing that's unpleasant. And then the whole dichotomy between pleasant and unpleasant sort of evaporates, and it's just vibrations. And I suppose the same thing with the tinnitus. But then, so that's one approach, is by focusing on the thing that's difficult. But then the opposite approach is ignore the thing that's difficult and focus on the breath. And that also is a perfectly good way of meditation, if you're able to do that. And even like if I'm meditating and there's something going on that's very painful, and if it's like the pain is so like intrusive that it's difficult for me to focus on the breath, then I might take a stronger object, like reciting some Dhamma that I've memorized. So just sitting in meditation, I could just start saying Iti Piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddha, and just recite some Dhamma that I know, and I'm watching like what's happening to the feeling. And like while I'm reciting, the feeling has gone away because the mind is preoccupied with recollecting the feeling. So the recollection is like the little boy with the plug in the dam, that he's plugging the unpleasant experience from coming through by putting something else in front. Uh, uh, that kind of policy of doing a substitution like that, another something similar is like counting the breath, counting 1 to 10 or 10 to 1, is another way to put up something that's more like obvious as a kind of like a plug that will help to distract the mind from something that's difficult. But using something as a plug is not a permanent solution. You only can do that for a while, and then you have to stop and just be present and aware for what's arising. If you happen to develop full samadhi, it might happen that the physical sensations can fade away and become like very distant because one is paying attention to the sign of concentration, like the feeling of concentration, or that for some people the sensations can disappear completely. My friend, who's a bhikkhuni, knows how to practice concentration. She went to the dentist and had 6 cavities filled. The dentist was a Buddhist, so she asked not to have the anesthesia and to be allowed to enter meditation before he drilled her teeth. And, this made a permanent impression on the dentist. So that's the other way. It really, truly, actually, it is the best way to cope with something painful is to actually know how to meditate in a way that's so powerful that you can just put the pain to the side and have a rest from pain. Thank you. That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked. We've came already to the 10 o'clock hour, so we can pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teachings so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.
Ayya, there's a question about the sutta for this afternoon.
Oh, yes?
Just which one is it? If you could, Karen has a question.
Yes, okay. Just a second. It's in the Sutta Nipata. And it's called Pairs. It's number 3.12. 3.12 in the Sutta Nipata. And it's the Dvayatana Nupassana, contemplating pairs. Okay, thank you for asking. Okay, so that's all for now. We'll see you later.